Okay, so are we live? Okay. So let's wait for a minute or two before we start the session. So should we get started? Okay. So let's get started. I'll just start by introducing myself once. I'm Karthik Nadar. I'm currently in my pre-final year. This session I'm going to be taking today is an open source. So, like, I have been an open source contributor for the past 8 months, and it has benefited me greatly. So, via this presentation today, I'll be demonstrating the benefits of open source, how do you contribute to open source, and how to make your first pull request. And towards the end, I'll be sharing a bunch of communities and repositories a beginner can contribute to get started with open source. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so what is open source? So let's just try and understand what open source is first. So many of like recently over the past few months, it's been a buzz at contributing to open source. But what is open source? So basically, a bunch of organizations or individuals put their projects in one place, i.e., GitHub. Here, people can go and contribute to the given project. Say even Google, Facebook, even they have their own repositories set here in GitHub. So basically, you go to these repositories, you open issues, you just examine the entire project. Then you check that is there some part in the project, is there any aspect you can contribute to and improve upon? If yes, you just mention it to the maintainer of the repository, that is the owner. You by for doing this, you open an issue. Once you open an issue, the owner of the repository always examines the issue first, and then the issue gets assigned to you. So we'll be covering these aspects as well soon. Okay, so why should one contribute to open source? So contributing to open source is great for your resume, skill enhancement. So as a monster developer myself, contributing to resume has greatly enhanced my skills. Working on real world projects gives you a wide, how do I put it, a broad view of the landscape. You get to interact with some very amazing folks in the community, and plus you also get to network if you contribute to a repository, and you can also be recognized by the maintainers of the repository. And going forward, what is the significance of open source? Okay, so over the like often in a resume people ask us for our projects, but you see over the past few years YouTube is filled with videos of every project you can ever think of, be it the e-commerce website, be the clones, the Twitter clone and the Netflix clone that everyone adds in the resume. So, like, recruiters are already tired of seeing the same crap over and over again. So, what is something new that you can put on your resume? That is open source. In open source, you can directly show your entire code base to the recruit. You can directly show the entire code base that you have written to the recruiter, so the recruiter knows that this guy can code. The projects on his resume are not just some facade. And going forward, organizations go open source as well as a matter of cost saving and remote work culture. And for longevity and maintenance, there are projects that go on for years and years. Why do people go open source with their projects? One of the sole reasons for this is people at any time of the day from around the world can contribute to the project. Like, people living in different parts of the world have their own addition to the project. Like, there are features that I cannot think of, but someone sitting in a completely remote location can think of. So yes. Um, okay, so one of the like taking the first step into open source is the hardest. Like, personal experience, when I was getting started, I found GitHub to be plethora of code. I do not understand where do I get started from. So okay, so here today in this session, I will be taking you through the steps, individual steps on how do you go about with making your first pull request. Okay, so first step is forking the repository. So just a minute, I'll just show you my demo. Is my screen visible? Okay. So first we'll start by forking the repository. So this, my the screen visible here, this is the main repository for the project. Forking the repository, to fork a repository, you can always click on this button to fork the repository. As I've already forked the repository, I won't be forking it again. What exactly does forking a repository mean? It means creating an exact replica of the repository in your own account. The purpose of doing this is, suppose Facebook or Google has uploaded an entire application on GitHub, and suppose a random guy from any part of the world uploads a bunch of crap code into the complete system. It might mess up the entire system. What if someone comes and completely erases the entire code base of Google or Facebook? In order to avoid doing that, we create a fork. So basically, whenever you create any changes and try to push it into the main repository, it would first be added to your local repository, that is a fork repository here. The maintainer would first examine the changes that you have added. If the changes are not affecting the project in a bad way or are a good addition, they will merge the pull request. Okay. So now we have forked the repository. Next step is cloning the repository. What exactly does cloning mean? Cloning is basically setting up the project in your local system. So for cloning, there are a bunch of commands. The first command that you can use is git clone and the repository link. So here in my terminal, just a minute. Okay. I had already forked the repository and cloned it. I'll just still write down the command once. Okay. So the command here is git clone and the URL of the repo. So where can I find the URL of the repository? It's right here. You always go for the HTTPS. You copy the link and you paste it right here. So git clone. Just a minute. Hello. Just there seems to be some disturbance here. Is the screen perfectly visible? Okay. So next, we are going forward. We'll be cloning the repository. That just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. So here, once we have cloned the repository, the next step is to set up the project in a system. As this is a completely HTML CSS centric project, we don't have to run any complex commands. We just have to go here and click on go live. Okay. So yeah, the project is setting up on a system at this port. Okay. So this is the project. Before opening any issue, just try and explore the project. What all aspect does it? What all things does it have? Is there anything you can improve upon? So your power of knowledge blocks, features, ESCON events. Okay. Just just Hello, Anushri. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we missed out on a few things. There was a bit of miscommunication. Okay, so I'll just pick up from where we left off. First, I'll just go back to forking the repository once. Okay, so this is the main repository. Forking the repository is basically creating a copy of the entire repository in your personal account. Well, the purpose of doing this is, say, Google and Facebook have their own application code bases present on GitHub. So, say a person randomly from any other country, they come and they try to completely erase the entire code base of Google or Facebook. That would be catastrophic. So, in order to avoid situations like these, we first create a copy of the entire repository in our personal system. After we have created, once we have added our changes, the maintainer of the repository first reviews these changes. If it is working perfectly on our system, if it works perfectly on a system, we go forward to getting it merged. Okay, so to fork a repository, we click on this button. Since I already have a forked repository, I won't be doing it. Okay, the next step is cloning the repository. Cloning a repository is basically setting up the entire project in your own local system. So to clone a Git repository, you copy the URL HTTPS. You copy this URL, you come to your terminal, and you write the command git clone and add this. Since I've already cloned the repository, I'll be omitting that step. Okay. So once you have cloned the entire repository, you say directly have to go to the Go. Just a minute, I'll just show this once again. This is a simple HTML CSS project, so we won't be writing any complex commands. Let's go to Go Live, and the project will be set up here. Okay, so to get started to contributing to the issues, there are two ways to do it. You can either explore the entire project. You can see if there is anything new that you can add to the project. Suppose if the hover effect here, you think that you can add something much better, you can go here. You can go back to the main repository. Just a minute. Yes. You go to the main repository, you can explore the issues here. The maintainer Akshita Gupta, she's constantly opening issues. You can explore the issues here. You can just go to the issue. You can type on the issue that you want to contribute to the issue. So I'll just type here. Yes, The maintainer will review this issue. If she finds that it's a viable issue, it is something that is needed for the project. You'll get the issue assigned to yourself, and then you can get started working on it. Okay, to get started, I have forked the repository and I have cloned the repository. So I'll be working on a dummy issue right now. So I feel like I just explore the code base. Just a minute. So I'll just go here, meditation.html. Okay, meditation.css. Okay. So I feel like I can refactor the entire code base for the comments. It's a rudimentary issue right now. I'm not focusing on any complex issue for this. Okay. So I feel like I can refactor the entire code base. So I'll go here and issues and a feature request. Okay. So here this process that I'm showing is to create your own issue. Okay. So okay, so often you should always read through this. Since I'm simply refactoring the entire code base, I don't need this, and submit new issue. Okay, so the issue has been created. So once you get this issue assigned to yourself, you can start working on it. So now I'll just migrate to the code base. I'll just go through the code base. I feel like this is an excessive line. I'll cut it. So this was the one-liner change that I added to my added to this entire repository. So now I want to tell the maintainer that I've added these changes. Could you please review these changes and merge it to the repository? So just what I'll just take off one more line. Okay. So in order to do that, now we'll be following the procedure to create your own pull request first. So to do that, first let's check the files that we have changed here. I have changed the file meditation.css. So I'll just type git status. This command will show me the files that were affected when I tried to add my changes. So here, look, I changed meditation.css. So now I want to add it to the staging area. So now I wish to add this file to the staging area. Staging area is basically me telling version control that I am ready to push this file into GitHub. So for doing that, we have two commands. You can either do git add dot, or you can always do git add and the file name. File name is basically the path of the file. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. Both the commands play the same role. You can use any of them. It varies by situation, like I'll cover that as well. So now once I've done git add, I'll just run git status again to check if it has been added to the staging area correctly. Okay, so it seems that it has been added perfectly. So now I'll be git commit. Okay. So I'll run my commit message minus m. This commit message is basically me telling a message, a message insight into what exactly am I trying to achieve via this pull request. Okay. So git commit minus m. Minus m is basically message, the syntax for writing the message. So um, the code. Oh. And okay, so now after committing the message, it is perfectly at the edge of the cliff. I just have to push it forward into the GitHub repository. So when I push my changes into the GitHub repository, it basically gets pushed into my local repository. So git push origin me. Okay. So it seems to be okay, just a minute. So I'll go back to the original repository and I'll wait for the pull request to attend. I'll just refresh the screen once. Just a minute. Okay, there seems to be some issue. I think we have pushed the changes correctly. One commit ahead. Okay, it has reached this branch. Okay, I pushed it to the main branch, so I'll just new pull request. Okay, So here I'll add create pull request, and I'll also add the issue number that I tried to clear, hashtag 3, and create pull request. So this was basically the steps you have to follow in order to create your first pull request. And okay, and I'll just share one more repository. So now this was a basic HTML repository where we did not have to run any complex commands. Okay, so it's doesn't take now. Okay, so I'll just try forking this repository. So now the repository that I tried setting up was a basic repository which did not require you to run any plethora of commands. In this repository, basically, whenever you migrate to a project, the first thing you have to do is examine the README file, because setting up every project requires a bunch of steps. So running to the README always gives you an insight into what the project is expecting of you. So I'll just come here. I'll clone this project again. Okay, in the recent VS Code update, you will observe cloning the Git repository becomes much more easy. I'll just show it live here. Yes, it is. It will get loaded. And yes, I think we are good to go. I'll just choose a location here and done. Just wait for it to load and open. Just control this. Okay. So basically now going this project compared to the previous project that we saw, this project has plethora of code, hundreds and thousands of lines of code. So it's not an easy task for someone who has just arrived at the project to directly start contributing to the project. So the first thing we do is we'll just examine the entire readme about what the project is about, and then we'll go to setting up the project. Okay, so to install the dependencies, pm run inst. Okay, these commands will guide you on how to set up your project. So pnpm install is basically to set run all the dependencies. This is to create a branch. I'll just show this as well in a minute. Okay, so we have our dependencies installed. Git checkout minus b branch name. This basically creates a branch. Even when you are working on a forked repository, it is always good practice to create a separate branch to work on. So basically, whenever you push your changes, it first gets added to the branch, then to your local repository, and then to the main repository. Okay, so I'll just create a branch. You get checkout minus b branch name, and I just name it demo. Okay, demo and npm run dev. Okay. There are many different ways of setting up a repository. This is basically you can set up the repository via Docker, but we don't need it now. npm run dev. I think we have the server up and running. Let me see if it has any errors. Okay. Let's just wait for the project to get started. 3000 compiling migrate. Okay. So here we have a project, and like looking at this, you might first get overwhelmed at how exactly do I even get started with it. So okay, so I'll just explore the project for once. What exactly does the project have for us? C program, it is basically providing us with resources to practice various skills. So for C++ programming, it has a bunch of links we can use to practice it. Okay. Is the other links not active? Open source, DevOps, hardware, deep learning. Okay. Perfect. So I'll just try opening another demo pull request here in this project. So the back to top button. So what exactly is this back to top button here? I'll just migrate to the home page. It's not visible. Card script to work. Prepare search bar, search bar.tsx. Okay, I think search bar should be covering this. It's a TypeScript centric project, TypeScript and React Next.js. Okay. Uh, I can't find anything to change. Okay, I'll just open a spam PR here. Okay. Just avoid using spam PRs. This is just for my demo purpose. Okay, so I'll just check again which file have I changed. So basically search bar, I'll change the search bar reducer.tsx. So get status. Okay. So now again so okay, now not everyone can remember these commands. So in order to remember these commands, you can always check the readme file, create a pull request. You can just go here. Just a minute. Contributor.md, md. Okay. Text tag, let's get started. The projects often have a set of guidelines to know how to exactly do you create a pull request. Okay, perfect. So get add file name. So now after get status, get add file name. What file have I changed? So I'll just copy it. Uh, I'll just check has it been added to the staging area. Status. Okay. So I'll write my commit message first. Get commit minus m. I'll just copy these commands for better understanding. So commit message demo, and I'll just push it to my local repository. Uh, Hit push origin. Okay, yes. The purpose of creating a branch. So basically now here into a local here for after right now our changes are currently on the branch. Have I created a branch? No, I don't think I forgot to create a branch. It's fine. Just I'll just check it. Git branch. Okay, I think yes, we have created a branch. So git push origin branch. So basically the changes that we added just now are first in a branch, namely demo. So now when we run the git push origin command, these changes will get pushed to our local repository. Once a pull request is merged, these changes will then be added to the main repository. So git push origin demo. Okay, perfect. We were to push these changes successfully, and I'll just go back to my repository. Okay, and yes, so compare and pull request, and again a demo PR and create pull request. Okay, so these were the steps that one has to follow to create the first pull request, and I think that's it. And I'll just share a few more tips for those who are just starting out with open source. So basically, I'll just show you my GitHub account once. Like for beginners who want to start exploring projects, there are a bunch of sites you can always explore. For example, first contributions. Okay, this has a bunch of repositories. You can always look for the tech stack you want. For example, look at this for Web3. This is for Java, Python. Is there anything for React? Okay, look, this is for React. Like as a React developer, this is something even I could contribute to. Contributing to open source doesn't only mean code centric contributions. You could always contribute to the README as well under no code contributions as well. And okay, this is one of the sites. Another site you could always go to is Quinn. Even I myself recently started using this site, and it is actually quite good. It has a much broader view of projects. I'll just sign in and show it to you how exactly it looks. Just a minute. Okay, yes. This is a much better option for people who are just getting started. It directly shows the number of issues that are open for. I'll just show one of the issues I was working on. I hope it's still there. Okay. So I can I can just preview the issue that they have suggested. I can go through it. I'll click on get started and I am directly migrated to the issue. I feel like first contributor is help wanted. A sample program, print sum of two numbers. Okay. Let's just say I would work this issue. Okay, so once a maintainer, basically this person Nick Koforin, once he reviews this issue, once he reviews my portfolio, he'll assign the issue and I can get started with it. Another good option for people who are just getting started is good first issues. Even this is actually quite old website, but it is still a good one. Layer of Five. Always whenever you're just getting started with a project, always try to join the Slack community or the Discord community. That way you can always be in close touch with the maintainers. Another amazing project to contribute to is Milan. You can always check out this project. This is actually one of the most prominent projects right now. Or even for newbies who are getting started, you can always check out Eddie Hub. Okay, and I'll just show you one more project. This project is actually something that is very close to my heart. MOOCs, like this was the very first project I started contributing to. Like in the Girls with Summer of Code that recently took place, a 3 month long open source contest. Like I worked as a moderator for this project. So I'd recommend you guys to definitely check out this repository as well. For beginners in Monstack development, you can definitely check it out. The maintainer is very kind and a close friend of mine. So you can definitely get a lot to learn from her. And for people who are interested in contributing to React centric projects, you can check out Devs in Tech. Sushmita Jay herself is a maintainer. It's an amazing project. You can run it on the system. And yes, I am for people using varied tech stack for Web3. You can always explore Twitter for various projects. Twitter always has a bunch of projects that are continuously airing up. And so I think that sums up the discussion for today. I hope you guys had fun and got something to learn out of it. And hope you guys can start creating your pull requests as well. And before we sum up the session, you can always check out my GitHub profile. I myself am an active contributor. You can directly go here and check out the projects that I have been contributing to, and you can also start exploring them. Eddie Hub is something I strongly recommend folks to join in because Eddie Hub they have their own tool via which you can find issues to contribute to. So I definitely recommend you guys to join Eddie Hub. Just I'll just give you an oversight into what exactly it is. I'll just open my Discord once. Just a minute. Eddie Hub. Open source honestly is a great way of getting yourself recognized out in the public. Recently, like over the past few months, open source and remote jobs are the new buzz. Sites it definitely contribute to open source. Like in a matter of over the past month, I myself have been giving a bunch of interviews, and honestly, I barely even had to take the interview because once the recruiter saw my open source profile, they directly took me in. So I almost got 4 to 5 offers in the past few months. So I'd strongly suggest you having a strong GitHub profile. And just wait, I'll just show you one last thing. GitHub, and I think that could sum up our discussion. Do follow me on Twitter. Various communities are often running their community giveaway. So basically, if you come out as one of the top contributors in any community, you stand a chance of receiving incentives. This is my Twitter account. You can definitely follow me, and I'll just show you about the incentives. Okay, yes. So for MOOCs, I myself was one among the top contributors in the project MOOCs that I just displayed. So as a top contributor, I received a bunch of these GitHub stickers, and it looks really good attaching them to a laptop. You could show it to folks that look, I am an open source contributor. And for the recent Girls with Summer of Code, I finished with a rank of 22 globally out of 1,500 folks. And yes, I think I'll be receiving swags for that as well soon. So I'd say definitely contribute to open source. You can connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. We can geek out together for sure. I think that's it. Thank you so much for people who have joined in. Hope you got something to learn out of it. Thank you. That's right.